This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
All eyes on Iran. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. The world is watching to see what Iran will do after Saturday's surprise missile strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. U.S. military bases across the Middle East on high alert today, and anti-American protesters have taken over the streets of Tehran. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We're not into the regime change business here. We're into the safety and security of the United States business. We are not declaring war on Iran, but if they attack us, then I think we have capabilities they haven't even seen yet. It would be a terrible mistake on their part.
Retired Army General Jack Keane calls Operation Midnight Hammer a huge success.
We are on the cusp of actually ending Iran's malign and aggressive behavior in the region that has existed for 45 years.
Over the weekend, 125 U.S. aircraft launched 75 precision-guided munitions at Iran's nuclear sites, and Iran never saw it coming. Mideast scholar Jim Hansen.
I think the Iranian nuclear program is effectively over. There's nothing left. So at this point, we're dealing with a regime that no longer has the threat we were all worried about.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the strikes set the Iranians back at least a decade in their pursuit of nuclear weapons. President Trump is huddled today with his national security team. NBC's Peter Alexander says they have much to discuss behind closed doors.
Just how successful were these strikes? Where is Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium? Was it moved? And how will Iran retaliate?
Iran reportedly sent a secret letter to President Trump prior to Saturday's attack, threatening to unleash sleeper cells inside the U.S. if America gets involved in this war. Security analyst Jeremy Bash.
We do have to take seriously the threat that Iran has placed inside the United States, teams of people who could go after soft targets, go after Jewish organizations, go after government buildings, go after even malls and schools, because in the past, Iran has sent assassins to target U.S. officials.
Bash says 40,000 American troops based in the Middle East could also be potential targets for the Iranian regime. The other big story today, how do you beat the heat?
Ooh, it's hot. It's hot.
Yeah, it is. An excessive heat warning continues through late tomorrow.
Everyone is at risk when you have extreme heat, yet not everyone is at the same risk. Elderly folks, anyone who's pregnant, the very young, anyone with an underlying health condition are at higher risk. That's a lot of us.
New York Health Commissioner Dr. Jim McDonald says it's important to play it safe outside today.
These events do kill people, and it's a preventable death. So I think this is why it's very important just for us to take a step back and look at this extreme weather event and say, how do I prepare?
New York's top doc says staying hydrated and out of the sun as much as possible is key to beating the heat. When you factor in the humidity, it'll feel like over 100 out there this afternoon. More from Family Life's Dee Haley.
Those temperatures may cause heat-related illnesses such as heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Precautionary actions include drinking plenty of fluids, staying in an air-conditioned room, and staying out of the sun. Checking up on relatives and neighbors is also suggested. Anyone overcome by heat should be moved to a cool and shaded location. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
All right, good advice. Thank you, Dee. Governor Hochul has declared states of emergency in 32 counties because of the extreme heat as well as the damage done from Sunday's storms in central New York. We'll talk about that a little later in the broadcast. A gunman opened fire at a church service yesterday in Wayne, Michigan. Happened at the Cross Point Community Church in suburban Detroit. The 31-year-old was killed by 2 security guards after a parishioner ran ran this guy down with his pickup truck. The lead pastor says it could have been much worse.
People who were very distraught and really broken up about this, they still took it very well because they recognized what could have happened that did not happen.
The local police chief, Ryan Strong.
We are grateful for the heroic actions of the church's staff members who undoubtedly saved many lives and prevented a large-scale mass shooting.
The shooter suffered from a recent mental health crisis. He was armed with a handgun, a long gun, and was wearing tactical gear. Couple big stories from the sports world. First, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They captured their first ever NBA championship last night. OKC taking down the Indiana Pacers in winner-take-all Game 7. Mike Breen with ABC Sports.
The Thunder have taken the NBA by storm. For the first time, the NBA champion resides in Oklahoma City. The storybook season is complete.
And in Omaha, Nebraska yesterday, a college baseball World Series champion was crowned. Here's Carl Ravitch at ESPN.
And that's it! Tiger Town is Title Town again as the boys bring the 8th World Series title back to the Bayou.
LSU defeating Coastal Carolina 5-3. More sports with Randy coming up. Also ahead on today's Noon Report, Killer Twister rocks Central New York, record 4th of July travel, and previewing Primary Day.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. It is Air That You Wear this afternoon. Oppressive levels of heat and humidity. I've got the numbers coming up in your forecast. Coming up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. Cooling centers and public pools are definitely the places to be today. Day 2 of our heat wave. The hottest day of the year in many places. Real field conditions, as we mentioned earlier, soaring past 100 today. First responder Jeremy Mortoff is in central Pennsylvania. He tells ABC 27 it is crucial to stay hydrated on days like today.
Really, we remind people, even if you think you don't have to drink, but you're not thirsty, just keep drinking, right? If you become thirsty, it's probably too late. So yeah, just continually sipping on that Gatorade, Body Armor, whatever it may be, water, and really just kind of just be proactive with it.
Schools are closing early today in New York due to the excessive heat. Derek Zimmerman is a middle school principal in Niagara Falls.
It gets to a point where it is so uncomfortable and students could get dehydrated very quickly, become ill, nauseous when they do get overheated. And same with adults. We have to, keep an eye on them as well.
That sound courtesy of WKBW in Buffalo. The half-day schedule does not affect the state regents exams. Sorry, kids, you still have to show up and take those tests. A deadly tornado touched down early yesterday in the tiny town of Clark Mills. That's in Oneida County, New York. Tragically, a 50-year-old woman and 6-year-old twin sisters were killed when falling trees hit their home.
Just an awful, tragic thing. It's obviously shaken up a lot of the first responders. This community has come together, as our communities certainly have a long history of doing that when tragedy occurs.
Oneida County Sheriff Robert Mashel is urging sightseers to keep away from areas where cleanup is underway.
We're getting a lot of people just driving around being nosy. That is not a time for this.
Thousands are still without power in Oneida, Madison, and Hamilton counties. The flood damage there is extensive. New York and Pennsylvania politicians reacting to those surprise U.S. airstrikes over the weekend in Iran. New York Congressman Mike Lawler.
President Trump did not start this. He did not ask for it. He wanted to give peace a chance. He wanted to give diplomacy a chance. Iran chose not to. They chose to continue to pursue nuclear weapons. And now they deal with the consequences.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
I don't think any of us want to get dragged in to another war. What we now need to focus on is diplomacy. You're not allowing this to turn into a long war in the Middle East.
Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman called the airstrikes the correct move. New York Congressman Nick Langworthy says the decisive action eliminates a grave threat posed by Iran. Iran. Americans are gearing up for a very busy 4th of July holiday. It's just 10 days away now. A record 72.2 million of us will travel 50 miles or more from home for Independence Day, which falls on a Friday this year. AAA's Elizabeth Perkins.
By the time you get to Saturday, June 28th, most kids are out of school, so that's when families can start making moves. The two worst days that we're anticipating on the roads are going to be Wednesday, July 2nd and Sunday, July 6th.
Perkins says 61.5 million Americans will be getting to their Independence Day destination by vehicle this year. Gas prices are about 25 cents lower than last year's 4th of July holiday. Well, if you're wondering why you're seeing all those political signs along the side of the highway, well, it's because tomorrow is primary day in New York. Polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. New York is a closed primary, meaning you can only vote if you are registered in a political party that has a contested race. New York's Attorney General has set up an election protection hotline for anyone to call who has trouble casting a ballot. Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, for the first time ever, the Oklahoma City Thunder are your NBA champions. The Thunder defeated Indiana 103-91. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way with 29 points. He was named the series MVP, but he said it certainly was a team effort. Indiana Pacers fans got to be thinking and saying, what if, after Tyrese Halliburton knocked down 3 straight long three-pointers in the first 6 minutes of the game? But then in the 7th minute, his night was over, suffering a severe Achilles injury. Without their star, you just felt like the game itself was over. But there was still most of the game to play, and give credit to Oklahoma City for not just coasting. They played hard and turned a 1-point halftime deficit into a 13-point lead heading into the 4th quarter, and they cruised on in from there. Let's talk baseball. The Yankees came from behind to beat the Orioles 4-2. Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit a go-ahead 2-run double in the 8th inning, and New York held on from there. The Phillies got a 7-strikeout, 6 2/3 of scoreless innings from Jesus Luzardo, and also home runs from Edmundo Sosa and Kyle Schwarber, and they beat the Mets 7-1. The Phils now lead the New Yorkers by a game in the National League East. The Pirates salvaged their 3-game series against the Rangers with an 8-3 victory. The Buccos hammered out 15 hits to snap a 2-game skid. And in NASCAR, Chase Briscoe held off Denny Hamlin to win at Pocono. Rounding out the top 5, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, and Chase Elliott. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you very much. And still to come on the Noon Report for a Monday, Operation Midnight Hammer, extreme heat through midweek, and a ministry that's making a difference. We'll take you inside Child Evangelism Fellowship. It's a new summer feature we call Missions Pulse, and it's coming up next.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm Shane Morris. If a man exposed himself to children on a street corner, he would be arrested and charged with assault. However, when essentially the same thing happens online, there are no consequences. Instead, lawmakers and police assume that if children come across predatory pornography or strangers attempting to recruit them into porn, it's a problem of parental supervision. It's well past time to stop treating the internet as a space where the rules don't apply and to take seriously the sexual exploitation of minors that occurs online. In fact, it's even more urgent in light of the recent revelations about the world's largest pornography website. Last month, Nicholas Kristof described in the New York Times internal memos from Pornhub. These memos were supposed to remain sealed, but were released due to a filing error in an Alabama federal district court. In these memos, Pornhub employees admitted to knowing of and even joking about child sexual abuse on their website. In one message from May of 2020, employees at Pornhub were aware of over 1,000 videos on their site that users had flagged for depicting rape or assaults on children or for other problems. One employee wrote, "I hope I never get in trouble for having these vids on my computer," laugh out loud. Another argued against banning a user who posted an underage video because the user made money. Yet another memo noted that videos apparently showing child sexual abuse had been viewed 684 million times. The population of the United States, for reference, is 340 million. These revelations shed more light on the website's practices and how aware they were of the problem leading up to Christoph's 2020 expose titled "The Children of Pornhub." That article documented the cesspool of child abuse and non-consensual material on so-called adult websites and how these companies remorselessly profited from it. Within days of the article, Pornhub removed 10 million videos, nearly 75% of its content, because it could not verify that these videos showed consenting adults. But this is far from a solution. Christoph pointed to these recently leaked memos as proof that, quote, "we should never trust tech companies to police themselves." On the contrary, their past behavior and ongoing acceptance of abuse and child porn-related search terms, and the fact that many of the same people still work there, show that only legal and economic consequences will curb their exploitation. This is an ongoing and worsening problem. A recent study found that 1 in 8 of the video titles on the largest pornography sites in the UK described activities that constitute sexual violence. Even when no laws are being broken, children are still being directly harmed. The National Center on Sexual Exploitation argues that porn normalizes sexual violence and abuse for young users by design. All of this is why it's time to treat online exploitation exactly as we would treat it in the real world. Both Christoph and the NCSE offer the following recommendations. The full weight of civil and criminal penalties should be leveled against pornography websites. States should pass and implement age verification laws, and wherever politically feasible, full bans on porn. We should support legal action being brought against the giants of the industry for past and ongoing abuses. Christians must recognize and make the case that the problem isn't merely abusive or non-consensual porn. It's porn. Only a cultural transformation that goes deeper than mere consent, that offers a positive, God-honoring vision for sexuality and family, will be able to uproot this horrible evil. For the Colson Center, I'm Shane Morris.
All right, Shane, thank you very much. Let's take things outside next. The always dependable Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. Our call for this afternoon: hot, humid, sunny skies, record high temperatures for many areas, highs generally low to mid 90s, with some cooling near Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. For tonight, sultry, low temps 70s. Tomorrow, hot, humid, partial sunshine. Could be an afternoon thunderstorm in parts of central and western New York with high temps in the 80s. Wednesday, variable cloudiness, couple showers and thunderstorms around, especially from the Twin Tiers and south into much of Pennsylvania. High temperatures on Wednesday, generally in the 80s.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin Williams. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm Bob Price, and there's a lot to get to. Monday, the 23rd of June. All eyes on Iran, the regime threatening retaliation after Saturday's surprise missile strike on 3 Iranian nuclear sites. The White House called it Operation Midnight Hammer, and Iran never saw it coming. Vice President J.D. Vance.
We don't want to achieve regime change. We want to achieve the end of the Iranian nuclear program. That's America's objective, and that's what the president has set us out to do.
125 U.S. aircraft fired 75 precision-guided munitions at Iranian targets on Saturday. U.S. submarines also took part by firing Tomahawk cruise missiles at those targets from some 400 miles away. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
Presidents dating back to Democrat Bill Clinton have said that Iran could not obtain a nuclear weapon, but none of them had the courage to actually do something about it, and President Trump did.
Still, Arizona Senator Mark Kelly fears the secret military mission could backfire.
We could see terrorist attacks here. The Iranians still have a lot of proxies. They could go after us. The escalatory factor of this action that was taken is significant.
As part of Operation Midnight Hammer, half a dozen B-2 bombers flew 37 hours nonstop from their home base in Missouri to those nuclear sites in Iran and back again without it ever being detected by Tehran. Amazing. NBC's Richard Engel says the spiritual leader of Iran is more isolated now than ever before.
The New York Times reports, citing 3 Iranian officials, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is now in a bunker and has picked replacements in case he's killed. Across the Middle East, the response from Arab countries was largely silent. Many calls for talks, no government offering to fight for Iran.
The U.S. dropped over a dozen of those so-called bunker-busting bombs on the underground nuclear facilities. The president is huddling today with his national security team. He plans to travel overseas tomorrow for a NATO summit. 2 security guards at a church outside of Detroit prevented a massacre Sunday after confronting a gunman and shooting him dead.
Chaos inside the Crosspoint Community Church in Wayne, Michigan, just after gunshots rang outside.
Please, everybody come to the back.
About 150 parishioners, including many children, running to safety after police say 31-year-old Brian Anthony Browning started shooting as he approached the building.
Crosspoint Community Church, they have an active shooter situation in the parking lot. Male is continuously shooting.
Police say the suspected gunman was wearing a tactical vest and was armed with a rifle and a handgun when he got out of his car. That's what a parishioner hit the alleged shooter with their truck. 2 church staff members then shot and killed Browning, who managed to shoot one of them in the leg.
Nikki Batiste in Wayne, Michigan today. July 4th, travel poised to break records in just 10 days. AAA predicting over 72 million people will venture at least 50 miles from home for the Independence Day holiday. Gas prices about 25 cents a gallon lower than last year. You're listening to the Noon Report for Monday on Family Life. This is Missions Pulse on Family Life. Mondays during the Noon Report, we spotlight the ministries that are making a difference where you live, across the country and around the world. Today we're spotlighting the work of Child Evangelism Fellowship, which has been sharing the gospel with boys and girls since 1937. Our guest is the Vice President of CEF, Fred Pry. Here's some of our conversation. Summertime is prime time to reach young people with the gospel. I don't know what it is, the weather or what, but if you would, just to begin, talk about the impact that Christian camps have, whether it be 5-day clubs or good news clubs or backyard Bible clubs. That's how I met Jesus, was through a backyard Bible club. Vacation Bible schools, another great one. Just talk about this time of year and how crucial it is at reaching young people with the gospel.
Absolutely. You know, it is an exciting time. I'm so thrilled to hear that you came to Christ through a backyard Bible club.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a wonderful place for children, especially during that school break. And a lot of times they're at home, they don't know what to do. And going to a 5-day club or a vacation Bible school or a camp, it's a wonderful thing. In fact, I have fond memories of going to a Christian camp. And it was a great place to grow in my faith, even though we have a society that communicates through social media in all kinds of ways. And yet it's reported that kids feel so lonely. Yeah. And so having a time where they can actually join and gather with one another, be encouraged, have fun together, and hear biblical truths that will change their life forever has such an impact on their lives.
Yeah, you mentioned social media. I just find that so ironic that this technology that was supposed to improve our communication and bring us together has had the opposite effect. It's created these islands of loneliness out there, and kids think that's the real world. That's not the real world. Go to a Christian camp. That's the real world. But I wanted to ask you about social media because it's so prevalent in young people's life. Is that making it harder, Fred, to reach young minds for Christ? How are we able to make the Christian faith relevant when there's so much out there competing when it comes to digital distractions?
Oh, that is something that I know it's on parents' hearts and minds. Too much screen time is very detrimental. And what CEF has done is actually we've said, hey, there's some good alternatives. I believe God gives us all kinds of things in life that allow us to use those things for good, but we have to recognize that Satan can use those things for evil as well. Yeah. So we have to look at technology and say, okay, how does God want us to use this to effectively communicate and reach this next generation for Christ? And social media is one of those things. We have a Unite channel on YouTube for kids. There's some videos there. We have a kids app, and all these things are using technology to share the gospel, to communicate with those boys and girls that are on screens, to make a difference for good and not let evil reign.
Yeah. When I was growing up, actual Bible teachers would come into the public schools and talk about Jesus in the public school setting. Do they still do that in school?
Yes, it has changed a little bit over time. Basically, we have two forms of ministry in our schools: after school good news clubs, but also we do release times in CEF. We continue to do them. Generally, the rule is they must be taken off campus or at least off school grounds. So sometimes they're on buses. They go to a local church or a community center, and we do a release time, which is an hour each week as well. And so that's happening around this country. CEF is worldwide, and there are education departments of countries that are saying, we want religious education in our schools, and we're inviting CEF to come in, use their curriculum, and actually come into the school and teach the boys and girls about God and His Word.
Yeah, Bible to School, which is doing such great work. And the lady who runs that was telling me how some of these superintendents and principals are saying, boy, since you've come into our school, we have noticed such a difference in the kids' behavior and academic performance since you've been doing these outreach programs in the school. So even if you're not taking it from a Christian perspective, a lot of even the secular school administrators are saying, please keep doing what you're doing, because the kids' behavior and academic performance is changed because of this.
That's absolutely true. We've had principals say to us, it has made such a difference in their school setting and in the lives of the children as a whole, but in specific children. They've come to us and said, hey, this child was in my office all the time. And now, because they've attended Good News Club, which was a last resort, they said, hey, can we get permission from the parent to send this child to Good News Club? And it made a difference. Yeah. And they testify to the difference.
Yeah.
So it's just wonderful.
Well, you know what else is wonderful? It just seems to be a Jesus resurgence among Gen Zers and millennials in particular. There was a recent Barna study out, Fred, I'm sure you saw it, but for young men especially, this is true. People seem to be coming to Christ in droves on college campuses, the revivals that are breaking out. I wonder if there's discipleship to follow this up. Does CEF do much in terms of getting these new believers plugged into the local church after these conversion experiences?
Oh, absolutely. The CEF is not the church. We're part of the church, absolutely, but we are not the church. And that's why our purpose statement is to evangelize, disciple, and the third one is establish boys and girls in a local Bible-believing church for Christian living.
Yeah, you know, we talked about this big summertime, and there's so many young people that come to Christ through the camping experience. I met my wife through summer camps. I got to ask you this, because it just seems to me, we talked about digital influences of social media. Is camping still a big thing? Is it still going strong, or have we seen that kind of drop off in recent years?
You know, once someone experiences camp, especially if parents experienced it and had a great experience with it, they really do want their own children to attend. And we actually see it still going strong in America especially, but even around the world. Mm-hmm. And there's something different that happens as a camp. I mentioned it earlier, but it's just a different mentality. Kids are experiencing some new things, especially when we get the opportunity to take kids out of the inner city and take them into the rural areas, and they get to experience maybe hiking or fishing or canoeing or rock climbing or whatever it is for the very first time. They say, this is an amazing thing to experience God's creation. Of course, God's creation is a perfect way to share who God is through through his creation. And so camping is a wonderful time.
I can't think of a time I was closer to Jesus than through a VBS program or a backyard Bible club or some kind of a camp experience. I can still see that young college student who led me to Christ in the living room of my home growing up as a result of those backyard Bible clubs. And I know there are millions and millions of people, Fred, who have similar testimonies. So thank you so much for the work you do at CEF and making faith real and personal to so many young people. God bless you, sir. Thanks again. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you.
That is Fred Pry with Child Evangelism Fellowship for this week's edition of Missions Pulse. Mondays during the Noon Report, we spotlight ministries that are making a difference where you live, across the country, and around the world. And you can subscribe, listen to, and share Missions Pulse along with all our original podcasts at Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We continue to be bathed in pure, unadulterated tropical air. Combination of heat and humidity making it feel over 100 in some areas this afternoon. Please take it easy. Common sense rules apply. Lots of water, lots of shade. Don't overextend yourselves and limit exposure, certainly to the heat, especially working and playing. Our call for this afternoon, hot, humid, sunny skies. Record high temperatures for many areas. Highs generally low to mid 90s with some cooling near Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. For tonight, sultry, low temps 70s. Tomorrow, hot, humid, partial sunshine. Could be an afternoon thunderstorm in parts of central and western New York with high temps in the 80s. Wednesday, variable cloudiness. A couple showers and thunderstorms around, especially from the Twin Tiers and south into much of Pennsylvania. High temperatures on Wednesday, generally in the 80s.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Finally at noon, it seems like they'll blast just about anything into orbit these days. A space rocket is set to launch tonight, carrying the cremated remains of over 150 people.
It's part of the mission of Celestis, a Texas-based company that sends remains of loved ones, celebrities, and pets into space. Tonight's launch is set to take place from California's Vandenberg Space Force Base. The remains will be in a European capsule atop a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. The plan is for the remains to orbit the Earth and eventually splash down in the Pacific Ocean, where they'll be recovered and returned. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
All right, Tammy, thank you very much. And just like that, we're out of time. That's our world, the world we live in. Monday, the 23rd of June. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.